Good evening, class, and welcome to Faith and Foot class. We're almost to the end of the course. Who's excited for the end of class? Whoa. Okay, so Dustin is excited, which is weird. I'm going to turn the light on because it looks a little dark on your end. And I don't want you guys to not be able to see. Although you can't see the board anyway, but still, a little light on the subject is always a good thing. We have two subjects tonight, and the first one is rather long, so I'll try to shorten it as much as possible. But some of the things that you will have to do for the quiz are not going to be mentioned, so you're just going to have to use your imagination and see if you can figure it out. The first subject is the Mass. Now, all of you know what Mass is, correct?
Yes, it's where you go to church, listen to the priest, talk about God, Jesus, and all the holy things, and...
Yeah, exactly. The Mass is a very important part of the Catholic faith. Yes, other faiths have similar services, but the Mass is special to Catholics. Why? Because it commemorates Jesus' death and resurrection, and we get to receive his body and blood in the form of bread and wine. Which that is what sets us apart from other Christian faiths. Yes, they may have communion services, but they do not believe that the communion they are receiving is Jesus and Jesus' body and blood. They believe it's a tribute to him, but it's not actually him. Whereas Catholics believe that it is the body and blood of Jesus that we receive at communion. That is the difference. There are two parts to the Catholic Mass. The first one, they're both called liturgy, but one is called liturgy of the Word, and the other one is liturgy of the Eucharist. So, that is how Mass, everyone says Mass is so long. Honestly, it's only two parts. But the stuff that happens in between these two parts is what makes the Mass so long. So let's break down these two parts. What do you think is part of the liturgy of the Word?
I know.
Yes?
It's when they're saying the readings.
Yep, so the readings are one thing that goes on during this period. Readings.
And the singing of the crowd.
Yeah, which is called the opening. The opening entrance, or entrance is another word, readings, and the psalm, or as David used to say, the psalm. Readings and psalm, homily, which if you have Deacon Frank, Lord help us. And also, if this happens at your church or at this Mass, there will be a baptism. Possibly. It depends on...
where those kids get promoted.
Oh yeah, that's not every week though. That was just a special thing. So yeah, we'll put that under here. Also special events. For example, last weekend at our church, we had the enthronement of the altar servers. So a few altar servers became altar servers, so they got their cincture, which is the rope that goes around.
Or junior
and senior got master. They got crosses, special cross necklaces. Not every church does that. Some of them they just do it privately, but ours did. Also under special events, it could be a wedding blessing. Anniversary, that would go under wedding. Very rarely there will be a confirmation. We've had it once at the 4 o'clock Mass on a Saturday, and that was because one person who was supposed to receive her confirmation at the Easter Vigil had a death in the family that landed on that day. Like her grandfather died that morning.
Oh, so she had to wait.
And she had to leave to go down to whatever state he was in, Florida, I think. So she was given special permission to be confirmed at the 11:30 Mass, at the 4 o'clock Mass on a Saturday.
like a week later.
Yeah, when she got back. But that very rarely happens because confirmation is supposed to be a private, well, not a private, but it's supposed to have a special mass all to itself. And then the liturgy of the oh yeah, and prayer of the faithful. That's important too. Some churches also call this universal prayer. But we just call it prayer of the faithful because it's so much simpler to say. Universal prayer, prayer of the faithful, that's when we pray for anything that needs to be prayed for. That's when they say, for politicians, blah, 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 we pray to the Lord, we pray to the Lord, pray to the Lord. That's when we go back and forth. And then the liturgy of the Eucharist is...
It's when they set up for
Yeah.
the body and blood of Christ.
Right, so the offertory or preparatory. Prep, communion.
Yep. The end song and the bye-bye.
That would be under dismissal, correct. So, obviously, this is the biggest chunk of Mass right here.
That'll take about 45 minutes, depending on.
Well, actually, the whole Mass is 45 minutes to an hour. But this is the biggest part of the Mass. This lasts a good
Usually
half.
it starts at 11:30 and ends at 12:30. So that's usually about 45 minutes, and the last part's usually the last 15.
Yeah, depending on how many people come to Mass.
And depending on how many things they have to do. Or depending on if there's Father John and Deacon Frank, and then you're just stuck there for 2 hours.
Well, again, that would fall into this category. Because he does his homily here, the special events are here, the baptisms are here. So it all depends on this is your biggest part. This can be from anywhere from 15 to 35 minutes. Because, if you have none of this, if you don't have anything going on, you don't have a baptism, let's say you have an old priest,
He just likes getting things done.
Father Marcel, for example, usually will not have a homily. So then, if you have a nice fast priest like that, you've got opening hymn, readings, prayer of the faithful, there's your 15 minutes, and then about 15 to 20 for this. Depending on how many
So
people...
about half an hour.
Right. It depends on your priest. It depends on what's going on. If you go to a smaller parish, like St. Patrick's when it was open, your Mass was usually 30 minutes to 35 minutes because the priest didn't really do homilies in the summer. Sometimes there was no
Baptisms
music.
happen on Easter, right?
Baptisms, well, no. Well, yes. The baptisms of the RCIA students are on Easter Vigil night.
Now, weird question.
Yeah?
Have you ever seen Father Mo do them?
Yes, Father Mo does do them.
Oh.
Father Mo is the pastor of the church. It's the pastor that baptizes the adults. So
But
you'll
I can
have...
request someone else, right?
No, not for the Easter Vigil. Easter Vigil is done by the priest at the church because it's not like you're... When you baptize a baby, for example, that is an extra because it's not required. Well, it is required to baptize the baby, but nobody said you have to have a child. So therefore, because you have this child and you're having the child baptized, you have the option of requesting a special priest. Like, I've seen people that have brothers, like the sister has a baby, but the brother became a priest. They have the uncle do the baptism. Or if you have a family friend, like
So when I get baptized,
it has to
it's
be
gonna
done
be
by
like
Father Mo.
a 2-hour event because
Well,
there's gonna be so many people.
Your own baptism won't be 2 hours, but the Easter Vigil is always 3 hours at least. But it goes by wicked fast because there's so much interesting stuff going on that you don't realize time is flying. Because you've got baptisms, and then you've got all these kids that are being baptized, and then you've got first communions for everybody, and you've got confirmation, and you've got music, and you've got stuff everywhere. And then before you know it, it's time to eat food downstairs. So,
I don't think I went this year.
oh, well, why not?
Did I or did I not?
What?
Easter Vigil.
You went to the St. Raphael's one.
And that lasted like an
An hour and a half to 2 hours because it's only one family and they do all the readings at once. They don't have the special people everywhere reading stuff and musical readings going on. And again, small church, big church.
Yeah.
And also the reason why there's so many people being baptized at the East Vigil of St. Marie's is because there's two churches involved. There's St. Marie's and there's Sacred Heart.
So the people that do Sacred Heart get baptized there.
Yes. For the adults. The babies get baptized at their own church. But the adults have to go here because that's where they go.
Okay.
Yes, you did. We all went with Julie, remember?
Oh yeah. And then Julie thought it was really boring.
No, it's because Julie's not Catholic.
Oh, she's Protestant.
Yeah. Frickin' Protestants. Anyway. So, this is the biggest bulk of your Mass, is up top. Because it has all the stuff that... Some of the readings are wicked long. Like, I don't know how they choose what reading goes with what week. But, oh my God, some of them are so long. Oh, and another thing, at St. Marie's, if you would have gone there when Cheryl Geary was reading, that adds about 10 minutes to the reading because she reads like this. And she also reads really, really slow and meditative to the point
That you fall asleep.
where it drives you crazy. Whenever she was on, I used to be like, oh dear Lord. And then when you had her and Deacon Frank on the same Sunday, oh boy. You better hope you're not the only one. You've got other stuff to do, because you're going to be a while. Although sometimes he used to shorten his homily when he saw that Cheryl was reading, because he goes, well, that'll take about 10 minutes in itself. And that's because she was a Carmelite nun before she left the convent and she got married. So, and the Carmelites are very reflective and meditative and quiet, so therefore she just brought that into her reading abilities. Now, the Liturgy of the Eucharist starts with the presentation of the gifts, aka offertory, and ends when Mass is concluded. There are some very important parts of the Church and people that participate in the Mass. Some key people in a general Mass are the musical group or choir. Their job is to lead the congregation, which is us, in song throughout the Mass. The reason why I put music group or choir is because, as my sister would say, this is the 21st century, and a lot of churches, especially the bigger churches, have different groups. So one Mass might have a choir. The next Mass might have a guitar group, like 11:30. Has an organist and a singer, which is called cantor and organ.
Or just an organist.
Or just an organist. And some churches even have bell choirs, which there's no noise, there's no words, they just ring their bells.
Ding.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
There's some churches that have what's called a Life Teen Mass. That is a Mass geared towards teenagers or children. So the music will be done by teenagers. There's some churches that have a children's choir. They might sing one Sunday a month. So that's why I put musical group or choir, because it depends on your church. St. Marie's has all of them. They've got the whole kit and caboodle. The 4 o'clock is the folk group. 8 o'clock is organ and cantor. 9:30 is choir. 11:30 is contemporary music ministry. You've got everything. Churches like St. Raphael's, it's all organ. No matter what Mass you go to, you get organ. You're screwed. If you don't like organs, don't go there. The priest. Who's the priest? What is the priest's duty?
To run the church.
Okay, yes. But at Mass, he is the physical presence of Jesus during Mass. He's supposed to be pretending, well, not pretending, but he is in the flesh of Jesus. So he gives the homily just as Jesus gave the parables. He presides over Mass and gives communion. An usher.
There's someone that put you in your seats.
Very good. Helps with seating, especially in larger parishes. Like, again, if you go to St. Raphael's, you probably will not find an usher helping you sit.
Yeah, well, Maurice is always like an usher.
Yep. Ushers also are the ones who collect the money during the offertory portion of Mass. So they are also the ones who go along with the baskets, and so you put your money in. A lector. What's the lector? Lector is the reader. Lector is the one who proclaims the readings during the liturgy of the Word. Altar server.
Oh, they're the little boys that set everything up.
Correct. Usually young children and early teenagers who help the priest during Mass. Notice I said children. The reason I said that is because females are now allowed to be altar servers. Way back in the 1950s, it was
Just little boys.
all men. No, well, boys, yes. There was no woman, there was no female lectors, there was no female singers. It was all males. Actually, I think choirs were allowed to have females. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know one of you online students was around back then, so help me out. Eucharistic minister. That's the person who passes out communion. They're the ones that are out in the front with the wine or the bread, whichever they're assigned, and they pass out communion. They also help by going to nursing homes and shut-ins as well to give communion. Now, likewise, as much as the liturgy of the Eucharist has people, there are also certain parts of the church that are important. So let's see how much of those you can get correctly.
Well, why didn't you do a deacon?
Because not every church has one. But yes, deacon. Like I said, there's too many words in the quiz to determine everything that's in the quiz. It would take forever.
Oh.
So some of the answers are in the quiz, are in the lesson. Others you have to just kind of do the whole, let's see if it's inside
Okay,
the
so
word.
what's the quiz? Is it multiple choice?
It's fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank.
Yeah.
So
And
like 2 weeks ago, right?
How what?
Like last week, the first test, not the second?
Right.
Crap.
But you have the word bank.
Oh.
It's just some of the things on the word bank we might not have discussed, but they're all in English. We'll put it that way. There's not like a word that you may not know. I mean, you won't know it, but the definition is pretty simple. So you can just go, oh, that must be what this is. That must be what that is. And some of them are in the lesson, so you'll be like, oh, I know what that is. But anyways, likewise, some parts of the church play a big role in the Catholic Mass, including, see how many of these you get. The pews.
Is the little thingies that stand and have butter and
No, pews are what we sit on. Those are also known as benches.
You could have just said benches.
Well, I had to use the technical term for it. An altar.
That's where the wall with Jesus.
Yes, that's the main altar. Yes, that's the table. The table itself is called the altar, but that whole area is considered an altar. So it's the place wherever like Mass happens, the actual Eucharistic portion of Mass. That's the altar. So I'll put these on the board because there's not many of these, so these will be easy to do. Okay, so pews are benches. And if you go to a rich church, you might get velvet seats. Altar. Is the table of the Lord, we'll call it. Okay.
Wait.
I'm writing the words down so that way all I have to do is tell you what it is.
Or ask me what it is.
Right. Okay, we'll start with these. DJ, shut up. Okay. DJ is our cat, in case you're wondering. I'm not being rude to my nephew or anything. Chalice.
Chalice. I know what that is.
What is
That's the little bowl that holds the food or
Nope. Drink. Yes. Food has its own name, but chalice is the cup. The
I
cup
thought they used the same cups though.
for communion. The priest has the fancy chalice when he gives out communion, but the round dish is actually called a paten. But the cup, the blood is served in, is the chalice. Lectern. Now see, this is where I talk about you can use your words from previous parts of the lesson. Lectern. What does that word sound like?
A lectern.
Lectern. So what do you think a lectern is?
The piece of the
The place
where the lector speaks.
the lector speaks from. Now, I'll get to this in a minute, but pulpit.
Give me a second. It's the little jingly thing that makes smoke.
No.
Damn it.
This is the, now this is why I said I'll explain in a minute. The priest reads from. Now before you go, wait a minute. Some churches, especially if they're limited on space, use the same podium for both things. The lector will read from the same one as the priest. That's most common. You see that at St. Marie's. There's only one.
Same thing with St. Rayfield's.
St. Rayfield's has two.
It does?
No, one.
One.
One, the one over there. Transfiguration has two, I believe. St. Joseph's has two. If it's the cathedral or a basilica, that is when you will most commonly see two.
Actually, no, there's two in St. Marie's.
Yeah, they just don't use the other one.
They occasionally do. Deacon Frank does.
Yeah. It depends on who the priest
And
is.
Father Mo.
Sometimes they feel like just using one. But you will especially see both being used at cathedrals and basilicas. Basilica is like the next step up from a cathedral. It's bigger than a cathedral.
Isn't ours a cathedral?
It should be, but it's not. We'll get into that later. Okay, so yeah, some of the churches may have just one and then they just use it. They just call it a podium. Now this word plays into our next lesson. And then okay. So what I did, like I said, the words on the quiz are going to be, there are some that we didn't cover, and the reason why is because I want to test you a little bit and see if you can figure out just by looking at the words and matching them together. Because some of them are quite easy. And
All the way I'm going, I doubt it.
I picked the most important ones to cover on the actual lesson. So next, we have tabernacle.
Tabernacle?
Tabernacle.
Wait.
It's correcting my B because it looks dead.
Is that the bench the little kids sit on?
Nope, those are also called pews. Tabernacle is the place where the Eucharist stays during non-masses. What that means is that's where the Eucharist, the croutons, as Dustin likes to call them, are kept when there's no mass going on. They're also kept there while there's mass going on, and that's that little, you see the priest go up and unlock something? That's the tabernacle. It's under lock and key because, again, it's the 21st century and people steal stuff.
Because you never know if a homeless person's going to walk in.
Correct. Tabernacles. There's a big controversy among Catholic churches of where to put the tabernacle. Back before Vatican II, it was only in the center. Once Vatican II happened, Vatican II gave them, it's a special big old council thing. I might do it as a fall semester next year.
Okay.
Tabernacle, the rule allowed the tabernacles to move to the side if they wanted to. St. Patrick's had their tabernacle on the side. St. Marie's tabernacle is in the middle. Now there's a big controversy as to if they should be moved back to the center. So whenever you go to a different Catholic church, that can be something that you can look at. Oh look, there's the tabernacle, it's in the center. Look, this church still has it on the side. And it doesn't mean that it's any less Catholic than a church that has it in the middle. It's just a preference of the priest, or, maybe they moved it and now they don't want to move it back. It's, just something to be interested in. Makes you pay attention to your surroundings. Just go in and be like, oh, there's the tabernacle, it's in the center. I remember Mandy said they were supposed to be in the center. Something that keeps you, you're paying attention and you're not on autopilot. Sanctuary lamp.
Sanctuary lamp?
Yes.
I swear I know this. Isn't it a little lamp that sits outside and burns, indicating that if you're in a struggle, you have sanctuary there?
Yes, that's a roundabout definition of it, but yes, it is a lamp that signifies Christ is present. That's a good way of definition of a sanctuary lamp that's found elsewhere. For example, there's sanctuary lamps now in cemeteries. You can buy one to put next to your loved one's grave and it stays lit. In the church definition, meaning specific to a Catholic church, the sanctuary lamp is a lamp that signifies that Christ is present in the Eucharist. You will see the sanctuary lamp at St. Marie's. It's hanging from the ceiling and you can barely see it. It's a little red lamp.
And it's always burning?
It's always burning unless the Eucharist is somewhere else. If the Eucharist is in the sacristy, which is one of the words that we'll get to in a minute, the lamp goes with it. For example, they move the when we had our altar being worked on at St. Marie's, they were redoing the floor. They had to remove Jesus from the tabernacle because it was loud, and Jesus is supposed to be in a quiet place. So they took the tabernacle and put it in the sacristy, and the lamp went with it. Basically, if you walk into a Catholic church before Mass, and that lamp is not lit, that can pose you a question to go, why are we here? Or it can pose you a question to ask somebody around you, is Jesus somewhere else? Do they keep him somewhere else? Because before Mass...
It's always lit. Won't the candle burn out?
Yes, they replace it constantly. They know exactly how long it lasts, and they usually replace it before hours, before people are there. So nobody realizes that the light is on. You will also find a sanctuary lamp in the Adoration Chapel because we're there for adoration to adore Jesus in the Eucharist, so the light has to be on consistently because we're praying in front of Jesus in the Eucharist. The Eucharist is there, the light is on. Also, on Holy Thursday night, after your Holy Thursday Mass, the light will shut off. That is because on Good Friday, we all know Jesus is dead. So the light is off, there's no Eucharist, he's not there. He's dead. So everything is dark. Hymnal. That's easy. Look at the first word in the word.
What?
Hymnal. What's a hymn?
Oh! That's the station where they speak the hymns.
Not really. Hymnal is actually a fancy schmancy old Latin word for songbook. This is the blue book that we pick up when we go into church that has all the songs in it and the readings that we have to follow along with.
That makes sense.
Again, like I said, if you have a church that has a lot of music ministries, each music ministry may have their own book.
Yeah.
So we used to have that problem at St. Marie's. The Bible, it wasn't a freaking book, it was a binder. But the 4 o'clock music ministry has decided to just use the 2 books that are there. So that's why it's now downgraded to just 2 books. 3, really. Sacristy, last word that I'm going to cover. We just talked about it a few minutes ago, that it follows, the lamp follows when it goes through sacristy. So we know it's a room, but what's it for?
Oh. It's to keep Jesus safe.
Yes. It actually, the technical term for sacristy is the room to prepare for Mass. This is the room that's the technical term of that. You know how you pointed out on Sunday, why do they keep going up the stairs?
Oh, yeah.
That's where they go. That's the sacristy. Only in our church, again, because the French needed to be so extravagant and build a huge church, they ran out of space to have a sacristy and a chapel. So at St. Marie's, the sacristy is actually called the Chapel of the North American Martyrs. That is where...
American Murders?
Yeah, it's a group of saints that I think I'll cover some of them in my show eventually.
Martyrs or murders?
Martyrs. The martyrs are people that died for Jesus. Either they died a Christian, something like that. They were killed for their faith, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In most churches now, actually, the sacristy doubles as a chapel for daily Mass. So when you go to St. Marie's for daily Mass, which is at 7:15 a.m. or 5:30 p.m., you will be in here, in the sacristy. Except for during Lent. During Lent, the Friday Masses are in the chapel. In the church, because they expect more people to show up because it's Lent. Yeah, okay. Anyway, so these are your important words for actual objects. The other one was people. Again, like I said, the quiz will have others. I just want to test you and see if you can figure stuff out on your own without it being given to you. Because that's what faith is all about.
Now we're on adoration.
No. Well, yeah, I guess we can skip the important part because we already determined what Mass does. Okay, so I will give you, would you like to do your quiz now, or would you like to do your quiz after?
There's 2 today?
There's 1. Adoration doesn't have a quiz.
Oh, yeah. Do you have a pen?
I can get one.
Okay. Could you also give me a notebook, too?
Oh, yes, so you can actually write on something?
Yeah.
I had like 20-something pages.
Oh, never mind. I got the little piece of wood.
Okay, so like I said, here's your words.
So all I have to do is write them down here.
Yeah, well, obviously you have to read the definitions and find which one matches, but yes. Like I said, there's going to be some on there that don't make sense. Just guess. Some of them are quite easy, like finger bowl, you can probably find the right line for that one. Hopefully that pen works. If not, they're in the Mary department. And while he's taking his quiz, I will shut off the lesson and we will start up again with adoration.